issue. It's a
The motion issue at a sewage.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome into the Senate Committee on Government Operations Committee meeting of Friday, April 10th, 2006. Before we dive into the two bills up for consideration today, Cameron Wood is joining us on H519. This is the State Employees Retirement System Group G. I call them the three police officers who were orphaned. Randolph, sorry. From moving to one group to the other, we kind of forgot. We did pass the bill, and I'm going to have Cameron explain why we need potentially to move it, an amendment.
Okay, for the record, Cameron Wood, Office of Legislative Counsel, share my screen and walk through this amendment. Currently, the bill, you all voted it out. No changes from what the House passed. It is currently in it is currently in finance. Yes. Okay, so as I was reviewing the definitions in this chapter, I came across something where dates didn't exactly line up where they should on some previous language moving individuals over to Group G. So as you know, you all as a body have done this. I think this would be the third time. You had Department of Corrections first, then you moved sheriffs over, and now you have these municipal law enforcement officers. And so you have this amendment. It is currently drafted as an amendment from Senator Collmore, but we could add others if you wanted to move this forward. It's striking out section 1, which is the section related to definitions, and inserting a new section because there's a few different changes. So it would be problematic to do them somewhat as instances of amendment. So I've just done it as a strike section 1, insert new section 1. This has no actual substantive change to the bill that you all passed. These are just clarifying and fixing some dates, both mainly things that you've done previously, but one instance of the bill itself. So what's the issue that I'm trying to solve here? This is Group G membership. So these are the first individuals that you moved over to Group G. So as you can see there on line 17 and 18, we're talking about the Department of Corrections employees. So this happened. This is the first instance of this Group G membership that you created. The issue is what you see here. The following employees who are first employed on or after July 1 of 2023, or are members of the system as of July 30, 2022, and make an irrevocable election, you're missing an entire year's worth of employees.
Right.
That's the issue that I found and I'm trying to resolve with this. So in this first instance, it's moving that out to June 30, 2023. The next instance is going to be all the way down on page 3. So all of this new language that's underlined, this is just the substance of the bill that you've all voted out already, where you're moving over these municipal employees into Group G, beginning January 1, 2027. So now we get to normal retirement date. We're running into the same issue with respect to a Group G member. This is where, if you remember, you have to list out when the employee started and what their retirement date is, because the retirement date, it can be somewhat different depending on at what point in time the employee started working for the state. So this is for individuals who were first employed on or before June 30, 2008, who were employed as of June 30, 2023 is what it should be, because those individuals had to make the irrevocable election to move to Group G by July 1 of 2023, back when you made this change. So the issue is the language. If you have it as 2022, it's just missing a gap of employees that the treasurer's office should have given them the election. So this is, it's fixing an error in the statute, but I don't think the fix is going to have any actual practical change with what's happened on the ground. This has all happened already. They've already given these employees the irrevocable election. They've already made the election. So this isn't going to go back and allow people to make another election or make any changes, but it is needed to make sure the statute is at least reflecting what should have happened in reality. Because if you don't have this, then you have a year's worth of employees who technically don't have a retirement date. They don't meet the definition. And so that's the next change. Same thing here. So it's just the next subsection. So the first one was employees. You can see there on line 20, membership in the system before 2008. This next subdivision is for those who were after 2008 who were employed as of 2023. The next change is going to be down here, should be page 7.
6. Well, yeah.
Top of page 7. So this is the sheriffs and the deputies that you just moved over a few years ago. And the issue here is it was supposed to be January 1 of 2025. Any individual who became employed as of January 1, 2025 is in group G. They don't get the election. So here's what their retirement date is. But because it doesn't say on or after, technically anyone who started on January 1 wouldn't be included. I don't know if that actually impacts anyone. I don't know if anyone started on January 1, but the issue is it's possible.
It's possible, but
Sure.
highly unlikely.
Sure.
It's this way.
And so that's a fix there. Lastly, same thing here. On or after January 1. I assume that may be the reason it was drafted that way to begin with, is because the fact that January 1 is a holiday,
holiday,
but
right.
I
You never know,
I would advise you not to take that risk and make sure it reflects that way.
particularly given the population we're dealing with, because these are people who tend to often work on holidays.
Yeah, but they probably don't start on holidays.
I agree.
It's just safety. It's technical, and I appreciate your finding it. Excellent.
And so I have, as I mentioned, Mr. Chair, before we got started, I shared this with the treasurer's office just about an hour or so ago. So obviously they haven't had a chance to really review the actual language and respond. I would invite their response to make sure that they agree with, what I have done. But that is the technical fix that I think at some point you all as a body should make.
So committee, do you want to be on the amendment with me, or do you want me to just do it?
No, what's the
I'll be on. I'm gonna be great, because
I can feel it.
I want you to feel the,
So if you would add the other 4 members' names, committee members' names.
I will add the other 4. I will wait to see what the treasurer responds with,
Yeah.
and I will let them know to reach
Okay.
out to you if they feel that they want to express a separate opinion or to the committee.
it could be alphabetical by reverse order.
Okay, thank you, Cameron.
You're welcome.
Never knew to go first.
So,
This is in Lacy. I mean, if finance, and they're gonna vote, it's on their schedule for Wednesday, I believe.
it is. And I double checked with Senator Cummings to make sure. So we don't have to do anything with it, because then it'll go unnoticed.
Yeah.
So it'll be a week from today.
Yeah.
The earliest we'd be dealing with it on the floor. Okay.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful
Cameron,
weekend.
thank you for going back and reading it so constantly.
You're welcome.
I should also mention, although maybe I'm jumping the gun here. Hi. Senator Chittenden has reached out to me, and I believe that he has fashioned a fix for our cemetery bill.
Oh,
Which
that is great. You
It's
just
still
don't
on the
mention
wall. Actually, technically, it's dead because they didn't move on it before crossover. But they can attach something to the miscellaneous tax bill. I don't know if everybody remembers the issue. The issue is we don't normally charge a fee from the state and then get money collected and then give it away to a independent outside group with no state oversight. So that wasn't going to work the way we had it set up. What he's going to do is put it in the miscellaneous tax bill, find a grant and give that to the Vermont Division of Historic Preservation inside ACCD. They will then take the grant and award it to VOCA, the Vermont Old Cemetery Association. In the end, we get the same result. I don't know what the amount of the grant's going to be though. But at least they're going to kind of be included in.
it should be limited to the amount that has been collected.
Well, there won't be any collection.
Well, so
There
is a collection.
No, that's the whole point of
But how does the money get into the fund?
they'll have a grant of some amount.
I know, but the money's getting collected with the funeral directors.
No.
Okay,
It's okay.
okay, you'll fill me in because I thought,
That is what we did.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work, so this is a new plan.
finance.
Okay, so
We have an
is the
independent,
money collected at Greg's side? I mean, how's it? Oh,
When you do your-
it's an independent revenue fund that the ACCD folks will find from something else.
I appreciate the fact that there's some random fund at ACCD that's gonna help us move this to the Department of Historic Preservation, and then we'll be then granted out.
Right.
I appreciate all of that.
Okay,
My question is still, how the hell do we collect it? The $5 a barrel, how are we collecting?
That's not how it's gonna be.
it's not
funded.
gonna be collected.
We're gonna shape.
So are we
money.
gonna have to appropriate it?
I guess you could say that was true. Anyway, I'm not gonna worry about that. I just wanna make
At the
sure
House,
we have.
we solve this problem. Laura, you're the House representative at this one. You could please represent
Here.
to the House. They're
The
gonna-
the municipality will still, through its city or town clerk, collect $5. But that's for the certificate of burial, and that's already in place.
Right, that's,
So they didn't lose anything, but the additional $5 that was going to be collected by the
Right.
funeral directors
right,
will not happen. If
okay,
ACCD could find $1,000, for instance, maybe it's gonna be 5,000, I don't know what it is. In a fund somewhere, because they have the ability to find money for historic preservation. That's what this whole,
yes, I'm right with you on that. I just,
ACCD's got to search in the couch cushions for it.
well, historic preservation will, and there are, and we could look for bequests.
okay, well, if you wanna,
We could work on.
if you wanna in Woodstock collect that
Yeah,
$5,
yeah.
great.
We're gonna.
You can make a
Woodstock.
donation.
In Woodstock, we're gonna work on finding somebody who might knock it down.
Okay. Anyway, I wanted to make you aware of that in case it happens. If it doesn't happen, we tried our best. We just didn't get it properly put past. Now, let's move to 686. And we're joined by Representative Laura Sibilia and also Tim Devlin, who was the legislative counsel on this. This is an act related to expanding identification of certain lobbying advertisements. Laura, if you want to join us at the table.
Mr. Chairman.
Does everybody know Laura, I assume?
Never saw her.
You've been in the building a while.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me in. I am here to introduce 686, which proposes a really targeted update to 2 VSA Section 264C, which is the section of statute that governs identification and reporting of certain paid lobbying advertisements. And I hope, Mr. Chair, that you will forgive me for reading my introduction. I prepared it some time ago for the House Committee and have not revisited it.
Yep.
Under current law, Vermont's disclosure requirements for paid lobbying ads apply only during legislative session. In practice, that creates a loophole. In election years, well-funded national advocacy organizations across the political spectrum may spend significant money outside the session on paid advertisements intended to influence public opinion about candidates and policy positions without public reporting and without clear attribution. That off-session spending is often not neutral. It is designed to influence elections and legislative outcomes while avoiding both campaign finance and disclosure and existing lobbying transparency rules. H 686 is small. It closes that loophole. It does not limit speech, advocacy, or political participation. It does not prohibit advertising. It simply extends the existing identification and reporting requirements year round. So that when paid lobbying advertisements are used to influence elections or legislative action, Vermonters can clearly see who's paying for those things, regardless of whether the legislature is formal. So here is a practical example. In an election year, an organization employs lobbyists in Vermont, purchases paid digital and mail advertisements in September and October. The ads criticize or praise sitting legislators and candidates. They frame policy debates and urge voters to hold officials accountable. This messaging is clearly intended to influence future legislative action and election outcomes. Because the legislature is not in session at that time, those ads are not required to identify who paid for them. under current law, even though the same organization would be required to disclose that information if the ads ran during legislative session. H 686 does not stop those ads. It simply requires the same basic transparency year-round, so Vermonters can evaluate political messaging with full information of who is behind it. That's it.
Okay, yes, Senator Flex.
So Laura, does this also apply to a mailer we would have gotten, which we got a couple of them at the beginning of session that I don't believe identified who they were from.
No, it was identifying, it was Americans for Prosperity. Yes.
And so this would apply to mailers as well. Is that, I mean, that's all forms of advertising and mailers.
But during the legislative session, that's already required. So this is when the legislature is not, it's
Just
just
most
makes
of the
it,
year.
just makes it year round.
That's just good.
Some years it's most of the year. I'm sorry, just me, personally.
Might be again.
No.
Any other questions for Laura? Yes, Senator White?
How did it go vote wise? So it passed
Yeah,
out
we voted
committee
for-
solidly, and how did it go on the floor? What were
I
the-
believe that it was supported unanimously out of the House Government Operations Committee, and there was no debate. I
Wow,
recall
okay,
correctly.
that bodes well.
I don't recall. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's really a small kind of,
Yeah.
this is existing law, let's just make it apply year round. So,
I think it would also help folks from being confused, like, I think it clarifies it as
I
well.
think it also helps folks from being confused, not just people getting the ads, but the people sending the ads.
Yes,
Because
yeah.
they no longer are having to track, are we in session or not? Did we adjourn some DA? Are we on recent? Like,
Yeah, exactly. If we're in a veto session, does that count? Yeah.
right.
Well, and also some of those time frames are a little fuzzy in terms of when an ad might hit, because you buy ads ahead of time often and place them. And it clears out all of those inconsistencies.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you
Have
very
a good
much.
weekend.
You too. I hope
Tim,
I
you
get
want
you soon.
it's, I think, a 4-page bill, 3-page, not very long.
Do we, I assume we have it, I agree, an agenda.
686. I have it on my sheet.
Sorry, I made copies of my phone. Okay, it's just, I'm so.
The 3-page. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for having me, Chair and committee members.
Oh,
For the record, my name is Tim Devlin, Legislative Counsel. Indeed, you have a 3-page, really a 2-page bill. The as passed by the House version of H 686, enacting relating to expanding identifications of certain lobbying advertisements. In essence, what we have here is a bill that will expand the scope or time frame of when lobbying advertisements need to be identified, and then it will adjust 2 different definitions, which strangely, somewhat in this chapter, we have definition section, and then we have sort of other definitions embedded within different statutory sections. Just historical access, I suppose. So I think the easiest thing would be actually just to start on section 2, halfway down the page there. And this is the expanding that time frame. So we start off in 2 VSA section 264C as identification in and reporting of certain lobbying advertisements. Subsection A, identification. An advertisement that is intended, designed, or calculated to influence legislative action or to solicit others to influence legislative action. And that is made at any time, as the language is prior to final adjournment or adjournment legislative session. And then, so now we'll just say made at any time shall contain the name of the lobbyist, lobbying firm, or lobbyist employer that made the expenditure from the advertisement and language that the advertisement was paid for or paid in part by the lobbyist, lobbying firm, lobbyist employer, provided however, small exception. So go back to the first page here where we have the definition of lobbying. So this has been somewhat expanded. We'll see in 2 BSA 261 definition subdivision 9, that's the definition of lobbying or lobbying means. Subdivision A, to communicate what was stated orally or in writing with any legislator or administrative official for the purpose of influencing legislative or administrative action. So we remove that qualifying language. So it just states to communicate.
Oh, yeah.
So we can now be suppose, something that's not orally or in writing, just and symbols. Then, and then, okay, then we go to a different definition of what constitutes advertisement for the statute, and we look to the bottom of page 2 of the bill. Strengthen that. And so we have here, as used in this section, advertisement means a notice or communication that A, appears in any public media, including radio, television, newspapers, and other periodicals or websites, or B, is widely disseminated to the public, including mass mailings, robotic phone calls, and paid internet communications. Something to point out here is we have previously it stated advertising, we said notice. Now it's for communication. So it provides, if you like, again, any type of communication, and that will match the language somewhat more in the definition of lobbying in the prior page. It also expands the type of media that could be considered an advertisement. Before, we'll see that advertisement meant any of the following public media. So it's just radio, television, newspaper, periodical, websites. This, by starting to including, it really means under we have another statutory interpretation, and that's codified in Title 1, means including but not limited to. So it really opens it up to make it a non-exclusive list. These are just examples of the things that could be such a qualified communication to become advertisement. Then also we put there subdivision C1A, something that's not only public media, but something that can be widely disseminated to the public. Then we give some examples there, again, because we use including, that term means it's not exclusive. We can include things like pamphleting or whatever else, or yard signs as well.
Oh, okay.
And then really the only thing else we have is the effective date, and this actual thing effective July 1st. It's here.
So I have a question. I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead.
We require lobbyists to register in Vermont. This doesn't say registered lobbyist or registered lobbying firm or registered lobbyist employer. How is one to determine whether they are in fact falling under this law?
Sure. So you're right. Not everybody who lobbies necessarily is a lobbyist who has to register. The key determinant of if you're lobbying and need to register is essentially whether money is involved as well. So let's see, I think it's lobbyist is any person who earns $500 in a calendar year for lobbying, either personally or through lobbyist agents, and person who's considered a lobbyist, if that person expends more than $500 on lobbying a calendar year too. So the definition of lobbying captures both professional lobbyists and wealthy individuals that want to lobby using their own funds. It also includes, and so that could be somebody who hires a lobbyist as well, or spends their own funds independently. It could also be a lobbying firm too. And then let's see, when it comes to registration, definitions here. Okay. There are some other monetary thresholds when it comes to some of the reporting. That's different than registration. So you have to register if you're spending or earning or being compensated in any sort of way, $500 more. And then some of the reporting for advertising, so reporting subsequent to registering, is, let's see, for campaigns totaling $1,000 or more, it looks like here. Indeed, somebody who is making these advertisements, it would be well advised to read the rest of the chapter to see if they qualify as somebody who has to register, and then report on subsequent to that, depending on how much they're expecting earning, etc.
Yes, Senator White.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, my only question was going to be related to the effective date. I would maybe I want to understand, was it chosen rather than on passage to be July 1st, just so folks had more time? Or would you see was there any conversation about having an effective day, like on passage?
Yeah,
that was kind of my,
I'm not sure if there was too much discussion of that point. Presumably though, it is to provide additional notice to those who be affected. But I really can't speak to that.
Yeah, personally, I would prefer it on, like, as passed, because we are in election season essentially right now. I know I am. So I would worry that if it goes into effect July 1st, folks planning mailers before July, people might rush to get out their mailer before July 1st.
Provided we're out of here before July 1st.
Yeah, exactly. But we might pass this, but true.
We'll be out of here.
So I guess my option is just to run out the clock and keep us in session till July 1st, if I'm really about it. But I guess that's kind of my point, is I would worry that it would create a situation where certain folks after July 1st would be required, where maybe there was a mailer that went out before, that it was like a month in between. So I guess maybe it's like at the close. I almost wish we could do like at the end of the session, like is there a way to make it as passed with the date of the end of the session so that it just
We
starts?
wouldn't want to put that in the law,
Oh,
because the date would change.
yeah. So I guess
On passage, it gives us, incentive to pass it out here ASAP. Concur with the House and move it along.
cool. That would be my
And
only.
do it on passage.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tim. Welcome. All right, more to come on this, I'm sure. We'll probably want to hear from the lobbyists. Good idea.
Yeah, at least one in the row.
Not right now.
Nope.
We're gonna move on to, let's go back to the OPR bill, H588, which is on our agenda for the day with I don't see one, but I do see Jen. So if you want to take the chair, and also, yeah, I'm sorry.
Emily Carr. I'm just gonna sit right here.
That's okay, you don't have to. So I'm trying to recall, because this is the bill, it's much like a couple of the others this week or this year, where we have them up every week and we
Yes.
continue to work on them. I don't remember where we were with this bill. I think we walked through the whole thing
Yes.
and we've made certain amendments to it, or at least proposed amendments. I'm trying to ask for the committee's guidance here.
We have a question.
Well, yeah, we have at least one area of concern with one of the professions under which they fall. This bill would affect and does affect at the moment. But I don't recall if there's any others that are particularly controversial. We never did hear from the pharmacists for some reason. We had asked them to come in, but nobody ever did, I don't think.
I don't think they did.
Okay.
Emma?
Emma Schultes with Vermont Chain Drug Stores. I'm happy to have pharmacists come in, but we are completely on board.
Oh.
And
Then,
this language comes to kind of get us going on this rural health transformation, which I'm going to talk about. I can go into more detail.
so you would be able to prescribe for strep, COVID, and
Flu.
with all the only two. I think we originally had an additional malady included.
Maybe, yeah.
We took it out.
So it would allow you to test for flu
Right.
and then treat. And because these machines currently can do multiple. So during COVID, they were getting tested for COVID, and maybe it wasn't COVID, it was flu, but they weren't allowed to treat for the flu. So this just opens it up, and it's part of the rural health transformation. So we were going to work on it in the summer with OPR, and then rural health is like, we do it sooner so they can get this money allocated and get it moving.
So if you would indicate that we did hear testimony from the pharmacist via
I
their
can email you.
group, Emma Schultes, and she can get you the information. We learned yesterday, by the way, just for the heck of it, in our decorum and whatever, that we don't need to put people's names when we list the witnesses. We could just say from the, so we wouldn't mention you anymore, Jennifer. We just say the Secretary of State's office. We don't mention Tim Devlin. We just say Legislative Council. And I think that's a good idea. It's less personal somehow.
Yeah, it gives a little distance and formality to it, yeah.
We learned something else too.
Yes, we did. We don't mention households.
I think you could, yeah. You could.
And that's my fault for
No,
leading you in that direction.
There's no,
Oh,
there's no fun.
Think again. I had asked him or encouraged him to make sure that it, because it was a unanimous vote. I thought that might be important and.
How did that happen?
Oh,
But we
yeah.
don't mention the House committee votes on the Senate floor.
So
Where it's
that's
different.
public morals.
That-
That's what that
What that was all about.
This is all coming together now, because I was like, why are you getting a rule? Like, there should already be.
I just,
Because he asked me, how should I do this? I said, make sure you mention the House vote.
So we're called-
Well, we mention the House vote all the time with our charter changes.
I know, so it's a little,
And a little bit.
Well, we mention the town vote
Okay.
and we mention
Anyway,
House.
Senator Bielanski.
Thank you. Circling back to pharmacists.
Yes.
I'm wondering what the status of the additional tests to treat, for HIV. I had been asked by the Office of the Health Advocate to add that into this bill, but then I was told maybe that's happening in health and welfare, and so I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah.
Is that happening?
So what's happening is that Senate Health and Welfare are considering H611 right now, and there's been a proposed amendment to that bill that primarily deals with insurance coverage for HIV, PEP, and PrEP. The PEP is the pre-exposure prophylaxis, and the PrEP.
Other way.
No.
Yeah, PEP is post-exposure prophylaxis,
Post-exposure.
that's right, and PrEP is pre-exposure prophylaxis. That's a lot of P's. So we testified on that earlier this week, and we did ask there was a provision kind of at the very end of that bill that would require the Board of Pharmacy and BDH to come together to figure out how to implement pharmacist prescribing in that scenario. We asked that that be removed. Just at this time, we do support pharmacists being able to prescribe PEP and PrEP. Obviously, it's life-saving medication, and for the post-exposure prophylaxis in particular, there are timing concerns. So we understand that access in particular there is very important. And the reason we ask that it be just removed for now is because when we're coming up with pharmacists prescribing very particular meds, we have a process in which we engage with the Board of Pharmacy, stakeholders, BDH, BMS. And so there's a lot of engagement around statutory language and collaboration around what should the state protocol look like. So that was our testimony earlier this week. Don't have any kind of gauge on whether Senate Health and Welfare is moving forward with that amendment. And we have since then reached out to BDH and VMS, and actually I've written myself a little note here to in H611 we received new amendment language. So we received that by email yesterday, I think. So all of this is happening very quickly. So it's making it a little bit challenging to engage with the parties we need to engage with, but that's beside the point. So we've seen some new amendment language that we think is going to come up in Senate Health and Welfare that would add PEP and PrEP to 26 VSA 2023, which is the state protocol section that pharmacists can prescribe. And then that would be a scenario in which OPR, VDH would collaborate, and the Board of Pharmacy would collaborate with stakeholders on protocol language. So there's authorizing language that I believe is going to be proposed on H611 in Senate Health and Welfare, and then we would need to develop a state protocol. So it's moving forward. I believe it's moving forward. That's my understanding of where that's at right now.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that it happens and we don't find ourselves in a space of where health and welfare thinks we're doing it because we're doing tests to treat in another space and we think they're doing it. So I just want to make sure it happens.
Yeah, I understand. And we already have this section open in the OPR bill. So that's where it would be added, HIV, PEP, and PrEP. in that section that we already have open in this committee.
Well, and that's why my initial suggestion had been to add it, because we already have it open.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know why should it not be in Title 26 with?
It
you
will
know,
be.
Oh, okay.
It will be. I mean, there is a proposed, or there is an amendment that we've seen this morning that I think is going to be proposed in Senate
Okay.
Health and
All right.
Welfare that would change the very statute that you're looking at. I don't think it actually hurts to have it in both places
Okay.
if that's something that this committee is wanting to add into 2023. And it would be a very simple addition of HIV, PEP, and PrEP. But again, we know that VMS has concerns about this. We've engaged with them. And so our suggestion would be to also hear from them about those concerns and whether they would be comfortable resolving those concerns in the protocol process, which we would have to go through once it's added.
So in the end, it could be HIV, COVID, influenza, and streptococcal pharyngitis.
No, we would put it in a separate section under the state protocols
Okay.
in 2023. And we can give some language to Tim if that would be helpful.
But we're moving ahead on the other things, on the COVID and the flu in this bill.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. Honestly, well, that's it.
No, I wasn't suggesting that.
So my thought for today was if you wanted me to walk through the changes that have been made, we had some brief discussion about it already. Or if you would rather just ask me questions about changes that you have concerns about, either way, we're happy to.
Well, could we ask our big question first and then go through the changes?
What? Yes. Senator.
So you know what the big question is?
Yes, I do. This
The big
have a whole
question.
page with those ready for the big question.
Yeah, I knew you were, because
Speech pathologist.
you're such a, be
No,
prepared.
that would be a.
Be prepared.
Yeah.
So as you know, we're getting a lot of pressure from the massage therapists and that world and the touch therapists to license them instead of just regulate them. And I thought, came actually of all the arguments, one of the best ones was made by our state's attorney's sheriff's office, which is they say, as you heard, that it would require background checks. It's just a more formal. All the other states have it. We're one of the few states that doesn't license them. She had a bunch of reasons, but primarily background checks. And I know that we could do background checks now. So if you could just speak to, again, why registration and not license, because it strikes us that if everybody else isn't licensed, why aren't we?
Right. And so first, to kind of dispel that thought a little bit, there are 5 states that don't require licenses, and California is one of them. And so huge state with a giant population that's bigger than New England and then some. So that's a little bit of perspective. California has a certification that's voluntary. So they don't even have regulation over all people practicing the way we do, because we have registration, which is mandatory for everybody practicing. They have a voluntary credential. And you can have it if you want, and you don't have to have it bless you if you don't want to. So that's a little bit of perspective there.
I'm not sure that's great either. I mean, I'm not sure that is so great.
No,
And I'm
I mean,
surprised that
But still,
California.
45 other state governments have decided that the licensure is the correct
Yeah.
path, regardless of the size of the state.
right. So when we do a sunrise process, which we did in this case.
You did 4 sunrises.
Well, we've done multiple reports on this, and then there was that situation in Middlebury in 2018, and it prompted another sunrise request and for us to study it again. And that situation in 2018 was a voyeurism sexual misconduct case. So we went through our process, which is public comment, public meeting, research, and looking for evidence that the practice of the profession without qualification harms people. I mean, that's really what Title 26, Chapter 57 requires us to do. Does the unlicensed practice, the unqualified practice harm? And the answer was no. We have to stay true to Title 26, Chapter 57, and we found no evidence of people having physical injury that was caused by untrained or unskilled or unqualified practice of massage. And all of the associations and practitioners were involved in this process. And so we were aware, however, of this sexual conduct and component, and people are, unclothed in private spaces with practitioners. So we determined that as long as we have oversight over the whole profession through registration, we can be a place that receives complaints and addresses those complaints and removes bad actors. The other thing that I think maybe y'all don't know, and I'll share this with you, is that in all of our professions, when someone fills out an application, we ask them about their criminal history.
Okay.
So what is your criminal history? You have to disclose it. It doesn't mean it's going to be a bar to licensure. We're pretty, we look to see is there a connection between this conviction that you had 7 years ago and the practice of the profession. So massage registration is no different. People are disclosing what their criminal histories are. And if we hear of something that's concerning in that criminal history, we have a pre-denial process where we say, we're not going to give you a license because of this connection. So we're already looking at people's criminal histories. And if they don't disclose it, and we find out later, that also is a unprofessional conduct. So we would then consider it and sanction the licensee or the registrant and remove them from practice if we needed to. So criminal history is already something that we take into account in every single profession. And I suppose one of the frustrating things for us is that after we went through that sunrise process and made the determination that registration would be the appropriate credential to prevent, or enable us to remove bad actors from the market in sexual misconduct cases or any kind of misconduct cases. We came to the legislature. There was vigorous debate in this body about whether it should be licensing or registration. And after all of that vigorous debate, this body settled on registration. And we haven't heard any new evidence or seen any new data about people being harmed from unskilled massage. So the harm that we've been seeing is sexual misconduct, which we've addressed. So when we've had about 100 complaints, we've disciplined about 20 people, and we've removed a few of those actors from the marketplace. So registration is working for that reason. We don't get complaints about unskilled practice, which means there's no reason to require people to have a national certification that's very expensive to safely practice the profession. So that's one thing I wanted to highlight.
Can I just back up? Say so expensive. Why is licensure so expensive?
Registration is, and
I think partly if I were one of these, I think the people think licensure is a more professional attachment to their name. A licensed professional carries more weight professionally than a registered professional.
But that's not a reason to require the most
reason to want it.
stringent. I understand why they want it, but when you look at the requirements of Chapter 57, we are required to regulate to the minimum extent necessary to protect the public because it's marketplace interference. We would be keeping people out of the marketplace to do a profession that they want to choose. And so if we required licensure, and I wanted to give you this information as well, we have about 12 or 1,300 registered massage therapists, body workers, touch professionals. And in those applications, we don't have data about which category they're in. So we don't know how many are massage therapists, how many people are Reiki practitioners, and how many people are some other kind of touch professional. So we don't have that data right now. But what I will tell you is most of those folks are massage therapists.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you look at the national certification website to see how many Vermont practitioners have that national certification, it's about 10% of the number of people that are registered in this state. So in other words, we have 12 or 1,300 practitioners registered, and maybe 10% of those have the national certification.
So can I just follow up on that? So what you're saying is that registration allows more people to practice.
That's right.
And that if you were to license people, it would require another level of, that they would have to pay for and go through another level of national licensure.
That's right.
And there, so that's another test. What is that? What does that involve?
I believe that's training and an examination.
So they would all have to be willing to do more
Do
training
that.
and an exam.
And then as the field shrinks, which it might, if you require them to do that, we as a special fund agency, the fees have to pay for the program.
Right.
So in other words, as the field shrinks, the cost
Yes, the
of
cost
the
go up
credential
to go
goes up.
each person.
That's right. And I'll tell you, you asked why are fees so much in this profession? I think they're fairly in line with other professions, first of all. Secondly, a $275 renewal fee, when you math that out, it's about $12 a month, maybe.
Yeah, that's not so much.
It's not so much. And I had an and. Oh my gosh. I don't remember.
And you don't want to lose the number of people to have it inflated? I don't know.
I mean, yes, we would still need to, the enforcement costs. So, this is a profession where in only 4 years, we've had about more than 100 complaints. That makes it one of our higher volume professions where enforcement action is more common. And so when you factor all of those things in, the renewal fee is not that much when you're talking about $10 to $12, $15 a month. B, high enforcement profession. And C, we don't want to undermine Chapter 57 of Title 26, which says we should only interfere in the marketplace into people's chosen professions when it's necessary to protect the public and only to the extent necessary to address any potential harm to the public. And we've done that with this new establishment regulation, which will add an extra layer of protection for what we've seen, which is here's the new, we haven't seen new data about unqualified massages hurting people. What we've seen new data and information about is the prevalency of human trafficking. So like this, what you have in front of you is meant squarely to address that. And we feel confident that to the extent that any professional regulation could address that, it will give us a tool in the toolbox to do more enforcement in that way. So I understand that people have concerns about Vermont being only one of 5 states, but first of all, one of those states is giant. Secondly, there's been no new evidence since this body made the determination to go with registration. And we're staying true to Chapter 57 of Title 26. So that would be my position.
Maybe at first blush, massage therapists want to be licensed because it sounds like you're more qualified. But in fact, most massage therapists in Vermont would have to go back to school to train and take a national exam in order to get that.
And we heard from those folks in the Sunrise process. I was there in the in-person public hearings before COVID, and we had a lot of practitioners that were very concerned because they had been in this field for many, many years and didn't have the national certification, and going with licensure was going to put them out of business. So
just off from my perspective here, to Senator Clarkson's point, it would create an additional burden for those who are in that profession with cost, requirement to get more education, all that sort of stuff. But I'm gonna have to say, I think the great majority of folks that want this want it because they think if we did, it would somehow lessen the likelihood of human trafficking. And Jennifer's already, to my satisfaction, explained that if it reaches that level, they already have in place procedures to deal with that. And so I don't know what more we could do. If somebody's, I hate to use the word misbehaving because it's much more than that, but if they're on the wrong side of this and get an inspection and it's obvious that's what's taking place, a license wouldn't make much difference. They could still go to the Attorney General and file a complaint and get an investigation. So I'm leaning back toward, and again, we ask OPR to do sunrise reports, and they do, and we depend on them and back them up 99.9% of the time. So I'm not sure that this rises to the level of changing.
So if somebody wants a background check done, do you do that for free?
No.
No, background checks are not free and we don't, you have to have FBI authority to do fingerprinted supported background checks. And we do have that in some professions. It's also an added cost.
Yeah.
It also adds time, and paperwork. And it's a burden and it can be a barrier for folks.
But the registrant takes care of it.
We inquire into everyone's criminal history and when we find out information, we act upon that if necessary to protect the public.
Did you have a question or comment?
I do. And I appreciate that this has been a fairly intense issue. And I just, again, I've done some research and have found international reviews that there has been harm. It's not often. Anytime you're manipulating someone's body, if you don't know how to do so properly, you can do harm. Most of the harm hasn't been deadly. It's been broken bones and dislocated joints. So it's fascinating to me that it wouldn't be required that people have training on how to move around somebody else's body, particularly when you start to add in things like pregnancy massage or massage for people with cancer or certain lymphatic drainage issues. Like the way you put your hands on someone's body or position their body really matter. And so I'm struggling to understand how there is not a need to protect the public from harm.
And so what I would say is in the sunrise process, we heard some, not many, but some anecdotes about, well, this practitioner heard about a case somewhere where somebody got injured. But when it came to actual data and, national publications that are well supported and cited or whatever, we just didn't see any of that evidence. So what I would say is that if you would like to share that with me, I would love to see that. And the other thing I would just say is that we're late in the session. So like reconsidering something that this body has heard so much about over the years and decided on a path, and then to change that without notice to the public and to the whole field, it doesn't feel it feels like maybe there could be a better way to have the conversation. But yeah, if there's new evidence and we have an application process, I hate to even say this. We have an online application process where someone wanting a sunrise review can apply for that. It's not just something that the legislature dictates. People out in the world can ask us to do a sunrise review on something. So, sometimes if there's new evidence out there or new case studies or data about physical harm, that's something that we could consider and review.
I also think it's important that we recognize that we shouldn't just be thinking of harm as physical harm. There is also the real possibility of trauma and emotional harm.
That's right. And we feel like if there's misconduct on the part of the practitioner that elicit or causes that kind of harm, again, most of the time we're thinking about sexual or boundary violations. We've had those cases and we've taken those folks out of the marketplace. And having a license with qualifications doesn't mean that that's not happening. We see that in profession where people are licensed.
I know.
So it doesn't,
It doesn't preclude it.
It doesn't preclude that. So, I just would first advocate that this body's already decided this, and we don't have any new data to support changing course. So that would be my first, but a backup could be, you know, I mean, I don't even want to say it, but please don't make me say it.
Well,
Senator Clark.
restrain yourself.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
I think, so just two things. Did you say currently about 10% of our massage therapists or touch professionals would qualify as licensed as
The national certification, that's
and
right.
if somebody is qualified, because I assume some of these massage therapists move to Vermont as licensed people from other states.
Yeah.
They're still able to say Allison Clarkson licensed massage therapist.
Well, they can say licensed in Massachusetts and
Right.
nationally certified. They can put all of those things after their
Right.
name and registered with, registered by the state of Vermont, whatever. But yeah, there's nothing to stop them from doing that.
Right.
Two things.
No, this first one was roughly 10% of our
Okay.
massage therapists currently would qualify with a license.
Senator Yost.
I appreciate that, and I also appreciate how late it is in the session and wanting to have time to think about what's next in terms of the
Sleep.
yeah, it distracted me. I'm sorry. In terms of, the 90% that don't have that national certification, we've done this in other professions where we've created an on-ramp so that people can get towards the qualifications. I know some states like Hawaii, I'm reading their Sunrise report, right? Looking at it, not reading it, but Sunrise report for massage right now has an apprenticeship program. There are ways around making sure that people can get to the qualification that we are suggesting.
Yeah.
Senator Warren.
Well, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us about this. I don't think I have had strong feelings about this particular topic in the past, and I don't really have strong feelings about it now, to be honest with you. I'm a little wishy-washy on it, depending on what witness we hear from, because I truly don't know what the right answer is, because it seems like 6 of one and half dozen of the other. But I think the piece that I just want to make sure I don't think is a compelling argument on your side, but I understand where you're coming from. I don't think it's compelling to say that a previous legislature came to a different conclusion than this and we haven't had new information, because it's a totally different group of people who are voting on this topic versus previous legislators. So while we may not have new information from the Secretaries of State's office, there's a new composition of people with different preferences and needs. So I just would refrain from that argument, although I agree with basically everything else you said, because it is a different group of people. And that's the reason we have elections, is because even though the information externally might not change, the people who are in the seats themselves have changed, maybe providing a different set of perspectives on any one issue. So besides that, I think you've made a very compelling case. And I ultimately would agree that we should not move forward with licensure at this time based on the critically difficult situation. I don't know. It seems yeah, that's where I'm at.
Do we want to walk through the,
Yeah.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say.
well, then you can say it.
No, you sit here on a chair, you do it.
We can have Jennifer walk through this came from, I think I saved it at Winning Becca's.
1.2, draft 1.2.
Mhm.
That works.
1.2. Great, happy to walk through that.
Yeah.
So you see in the first section, there was just a couple of minor
May I just ask a question
ma'am.
of our chair?
Sure.
Brian, at the moment, we now have significant changes.
You want to
The
strike it off?
reason we're doing this not as a strike all.
No good reason.
I generally like strike alls because it's easier to read and understand, and it's all then in one place. So I just love to have us think about that as we go through this.
I'm sure Jen would be agreeable to move it to a strike call.
Whatever.
He's not there.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, in this first section, we have in disciplinary cases that are in board professions, the person who filed the complaint has a right to appear at a stipulation review hearing and be heard. So in other words, when the state settles that case, the complainant can come in and say their piece. Well, we don't have that in advisor professions. So we've been actually still using that same process, but we just wanted to clean up the language to make sure that in advisor professions, complainants have the same right.
So it's parity between advisor
And
and
board professions, yes.
and what?
And board
Yeah.
professions, yeah. Next, in the rescission language in 129C, so we already have language in there for compact licensure holders that if a state withdrew from a compact, then a compact holder their license could be rescinded. That means that they've gotten a compact license from another state, they wouldn't be able to practice in Vermont, they'd need to get a Vermont license. There are other circumstances in which, it's primarily, as far as I know, in the nursing profession, where someone could have an RN compact license from another state and come to Vermont and get a Vermont APRN license, which is a different level on top of the RN. And if the compact state takes away their RN license, then they have a Vermont APRN that doesn't have the requisite underlying credentials. So we would need to rescind that license and give the individual the opportunity to get a Vermont RN. We've actually had this situation play out once. So, and the individual got the RN license and then their APRN license was turned back on. So we just need that to be included in here. Then you'll see just a 10-day extension for the review process to happen within 30 days after a rescission instead of 20. That's because our boards meet once a month. So there would be like this 10-day period where we might lose that opportunity if we don't extend it to 30 days, which means we also needed to bump out the next time frame of 40 days. So that's that. And then on page 6 of 14, so we are wanting to start a practice remediation program and an alcohol and substance use monitoring program in all of our professions. But it's important that that program isn't offered as a matter of right to someone. They can't demand it. It's if in our discretion, we think that the person fits the criteria. So we're going to be developing administrative rules around it, but we did a little language change in that section G, saying the director may adopt rules permitting a licensee to enter rather than saying a licensee can participate, because then that makes it seem like you're creating a right, which we do not want to do. On the next page, 7 of 14, this is in the accountancy changes. And there we're taking out the good character provision. We're doing that in all of our professions. That's a very subjective standard that many states are just doing away with in their professions, because we already have unprofessional conduct statutes. We have ways to get at anything that we would be concerned about, but good character, who's to say what that is?
I agree. We have this conversation. Yes.
And then in the next section,
Right.
in the next section, license by examination, you'll see there's just some language cleanup here. So we took out, again, who is a good character as a requirement, and then a little bit of language cleanup in section 2. And then on the next page, that has to do with just the tense of the verb. And then in the next page, 9 and 14, you'll see this has to do with the dental, limited academic dental license. And we're just inserting in Vermont in the requirements of the supervisor. Whoever's supervising the limited academic dental license, they have to be in good standing in Vermont.
So good character, no, good standing.
Good standing, yes, because good standing means that you don't
Yeah.
have current discipline on your license,
We
which is
hope, of
important.
course, they're united on all things.
We hope you're a good here.
Exactly, for me, united those two.
So in the next section, we're still on page 9 of 14, definitions in 26 VSA 2022. This allows the pharmacy technicians to test for influenza and strep. So they can already do, tests for COVID, and these are tests that are ordered by the pharmacist or prescribed or by a physician. So they're not creating orders or prescribing, but it allows them, if there's an order for a test, that they can administer those tests only, not the well, I'll leave it at that. So COVID-19, influenza, and strep in there to be consistent with other changes that we've made for the test and treat.
Great, and we'll hope for more in the future.
Yeah. Then on previous
Patcher lights.
previous A 125 at the bottom of the page, we just learned when we were doing our legislative work this year that our fee provision is Title 3 was structurally had some problems. So these changes cure those structural problems. It's not new fees, so I just want to be clear about that. 6, 7, 8, and 9 were previously under a different subsection, and we realized that they should be moved to subsection A. So we've done that, but there's no new fee associated here. Okay, then on the next page, 11 and 14.
Just moving.
That's right. It's getting rid of those fees from the previous section since we've moved them to A.
That was the structural challenge.
Yeah. And then we
The
have
real structural challenge was building the bridge between the sections.
That's right.
on page 12, we have in 26 CSA 1353. This is what we talked about last time with changes to the medical practice board statutes. And so just to revisit this for a moment. So OPR regulates osteopathic physicians and the medical practice board regulates allopathic physicians or MDs. So both are physicians, but different regulatory bodies. So
This has been a challenge to have the different, I mean, because you do some and DH, the Department of Health does others, and the medical board does others, right?
PMD.
Yeah,
so
that's what I meant.
Vermont Medical.
Board of Medical Practice. Board of Medical. So, and the structure of that was debated long ago, and I've been involved in those debates. So don't want to reopen that, but if we get a complaint, I will just say, for example, if we get an inquiry from somebody wanting to be licensed as an allopathic physician, or if we get a complaint about an MD, we work closely with the Board of Medical Practice. We refer those on. They refer things to us, and we actually do joint investigations sometimes if people are an MD and then they also have a credential from our office. So we have a great relationship with Board of Medical Practice. And which is one of the ways we got here, because there is a national compact that we're a part of that covers physicians, both allopathic and osteopathic. So it's one compact. And we participate in that compact for osteopaths, and Board of Medical Practice does for MDs. Background checks are required to issue for the state to issue those compact licenses. So if Vermont wants to be what's the term? Sorry, that was random. Yes. It's State of Principal Licensure, SPL. Can't believe I remembered that. And so if we want to issue that license, we have to do a background check. Well, the FBI has approved OPR to do that background check, but Board of Medical Practice has not gotten the approval. And so we have not, as a state, been able to issue those licenses. So it's, even though OPR has the authority to do the FBI background checks, as a, we haven't been able to issue licenses because the whole state needs to be able to do that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, the Board of Medical Practice, we worked with them and,
Looking up the difference between allopathic and osteopathic. Of
yeah,
course, then I'd have to know how to spell allopathic.
it's ALLOPATHIC.
That's how I spell it. That's how I spell it. Surprise.
Okay, and so, so the Board of Medical Practice, here is changing its language of the powers and duties of the board to mimic OPR's language that got FBI approval, basically. And so we're hoping that this change will make it so that the Board of Medical Practice can get FBI approval for these background checks, and then the state as a whole can start issuing interstate medical licensure compact licenses. That's
So the allopathic is considered Western or conventional medicine. And osteopathic is clearly considered Eastern.
How very colonial of us to think that
I know, isn't
Western
that-
is conventional.
I know, isn't that amazing? And we'll see, I'm curious to see what the osteopathic definition is.
I'm sure in the eastern part of the world,
Yeah.
I think they're pretty good.
I think it totally depends on the patient as to who. But.
yeah, I mean, osteopathic physicians do surgeries and, I mean, they're well incorporated into our medical system and they have a lot of training and.
Okay, osteopathic coming up.
So those are the changes that we have at this point, and hopefully we won't see many more.
She says.
But we will get the language for HIV, PEP, and PrEP, just what that insertion would look like into 26 CSA 2023 to Ledge Council.
So I'm just gonna read you also the
Yes, please.
osteopathic one,
Right?
because osteopathic medicine is a patient-centered, holistic branch of medical practice in the United States, where doctors of osteopathic medicine focus on prevention and treating the whole person rather than just the symptoms. That's high level.
Thank you, Grant.
No, it's just an interesting, whereas
Serious.
allopathic,
Indeed.
commonly known as Western or conventional medicine, is a science-based. The other one may be science-based too. This is certainly written with a bias here.
Uh-huh.
It is a science-based system where health professionals, MDs, use drugs, radiation, or surgery to diagnose and treat symptoms and diseases.
Some of them are
Focus
cowboy
versus
hats.
person focused.
Yeah, right.
Western.
Very interesting. It's. I would argue that most doctors I know of allopathic medicine would consider they treat the whole person. But hey,
Okay,
it's a very interesting.
thank you. Any other questions for Jen?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think you can go back with a good report to Lauren,
Okay, great.
and you didn't have to mention any alternatives.
Thank you. Thank you. That was a lot of fun.
Senator Clark.
So I would move that we do this as a strike all. It just makes it easier for our colleagues, our Senate colleagues to follow.
I don't think we need a motion, that we could just ask.
Yeah, no, I'm just
Yeah.
suggesting to Tim and well to the committee, and the committee's willing to
Yeah,
do it as a start. Goodbye, you guys.
Bye-bye.
I'm sure we'll see you again next week.
I hope so.
Tim, is that possible to put something together by, I don't know, next week?
Yeah.
I don't know, do we have it on the schedule?
No, yeah, it doesn't read differently to me either way. Like I get what you're saying, but
It's much easier to read.
Friday at 1:30, we're gonna take this up again.
Do we want to put the Vermont Medical Society on to talk about PEP and PrEP?
Sure.
OPR suggested here from.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think that's a good idea.
I don't think there's anything else holding up a vote.
No, I would hope we could go to that.
Okay, so
Vermont Medical Society.
Yep.
I'm not sure,
Would be Jessup.
since we don't use names anymore, I don't know who it
It'd
is.
be Stephanie or Jessup.
Oh, that.
Now, you see, he's now a whiz because he serves on which committee in the
I
morning.
spoke to one of them in the Coke room about this, but I know that is not sufficient.
No. No, the elasticity doesn't It extends to Emma, but not to, well, I was walking down the hall and the guy said to me, I'd like to talk testimony. Okay, anything else for the committee's consideration?
No, this was a good week.
I think so too.
I did want to say one thing about the bill that I'll be presenting related to, the license plate. There is continued disagreement, from what Sophie had provided to us. I have heard from members of the other committee that in fact Sophie's contradiction of that was inaccurate.
What?
So I'm not sure where it stands at this point, and I'm now re-confused. So I just wanted to let folks know that I'm going to be connecting with Davey and Leonard, who is our transportation folks.
Okay.
And I'll try to make sure we get the actual correct info. But it's about whether or not there is a disabled veterans plate that you already, it's an equal qualification.
Okay.
That's the disagreement.
I think there's an intersection here of like 3 areas of law: disability law, veterans law, and transportation law.
Yeah. And I'm going to lean on my transportation legislative council.
Did you already bring that up to Melissa? Because you could just hold the bill another day.
Oh,
You don't need to do it until we're clear on that.
yeah, I'll ask Melissa if it's gonna come on.
Just if it's coming on notice, pass over.
Yeah, because I don't want people to get, I'm now re-confused.
Yeah,
So Sophie was so
Absolutely.
clear and I was like, I got it.
yeah, I thought.
So then we passed over the entire calendar today. I arrived a minute or two late, albeit, and we were already done.
Hey, I missed
practically.
the whole thing.
Well, it's all no.
I finally got a response.
There was no, it was all up for second reading.
Just, no, there's nothing else.
She was on notice.
Right.
But it was all on.
And we didn't call anything up.
That's another reason, yeah.
Yeah, and no confirmations.
We had one that was referred to Health and Welfare. Dr. Is it Hillebrand? Eastern Commission.
Yes.
So one
Eastern
of the
Commission.
5 of you will have to actually do a report because it's an underlying thing in the calendar.
And my guess is Jenny will want to do it. Yeah.
Okay, it's going to be very
And our-
windy and I'm sorry.
And no, just one last thing, our priorities went into a post, delivered by our chair.
Oh, good. Yep, they're in. Windy and wet tonight.
Oh.
And some much warmer weather, at least by Tuesday, maybe
Rainy
Monday.
all week.
You need it for the.
But I
good
heard
years.
I know.
We're on draft. And fire safe.
Yeah,
All over.
southern part of the state.
That's not where you are.
Yeah.
So it is interesting to see in the budget and particularly in the Senate Economic Development world in the intersection with this committee, how many technical assistance programs matter, how much they matter to people, the VERTA program that we've heard about, the MTAP programs, I mean, all of these have just continue to be a great.
Okay, thank you for your work. We now have 8 bills left. And
Gosh,
pending whatever else comes over. I know there's a couple charters coming over. But those.
you know what that pipeline is like?
There is a new Burlington charter that came our way.
Hasn't been referred yet.
It was on the floor yesterday and referred. God,
I don't think so. Canton has one that, again, we're not in possession of yet.
It was very small, right? There's only a few words and they.
That's the town of Canton. It's very-
No, I'm talking about bro.
Anyway, we have 8 left plus whatever we get.
Okay.
So
You ready to?
are you,
We're good.
that's a really nice look.
I don't know if we're good.
It's like.
But
I'll tell you when we're offline.
Okay. With that in mind, we will adjourn for the day and the week and see you.